So that has got to go. Okay, so this is what we have to take out. This is the linkage that is used for a column shifter. So this whole thing has to come out, and then what you see here is the actual shifter linkage on the Power Glide, and then that is the kickdown lever. I have the part right here that is going to replace it. This is the part that we're going to replace that whole linkage set with. And you can see it right down here in this picture. Basically, you're just going to remove the old one, and then this fits into those two. You got a slot here that it has this little tab guy, and that fits in there. And then this lower tab comes in and fits through this guy, and then it's just held on by a cotter pin. So it should be fairly straightforward. It's going to be a heck of a lot easier than what I thought. There's not going to be a requirement to disassemble any portion of the transmission itself. So what we have here, now that I have the console out, I've got to remove some of this carpet in order to get down to the bare floorboard. That way I can position the shifter so that I can, first off, drill the hole to accept that shifter linkage, and then secondly, be able to position it properly and then bolt it down to the floorboard itself. Okay, so what I did here was I put this in loosely first and fitted it according to where the console was mounted. Now I'm going to say right off the bat, guys, don't do it this way. This is probably going to be wrong. We'll see. I imagine I'll have to do a little shifting around. But once I had it in place where you could go through the gears and it was lining up with the indicators on the console properly, then I set one screw in place. Just quick drill the hole and set one screw so that it would stay where it was at. I pulled it out. Now I've got the 4 screws in the back, and I don't know if you can see it, but down here I marked with grease paint where I've got to cut that hole for the shift linkage to go through. I think I'm going to have to make some changes to that linkage in order to get it to work the way I want. So this linkage has a 90-degree turn and then another 90-degree here, and I'm afraid that that's a little bit too severe. I would rather that it was maybe a 45 and a 45, because right now it's just a little too severe to work the way I would like it to. The other thing I've noticed is that it doesn't seem to be 100% straight. So I'm going to take this linkage off. We're going to take a little closer look at it. So I have this off now, and the first thing that I notice is that it's got a bit of a bend in it that doesn't show up in the exploded diagram at all. You can see that it's a little bit bent there, and so it might need to be straightened a little. The other thing that doesn't show up in the exploded diagram is the way this end is bent. That's 290 degrees, and in the exploded diagram it shows more on the order of 45-degree angles. I'm not sure if this is exactly the same linkage that is supposed to be here. This could be something that could even have been off a different car, but it obviously needs a little bit of adjustment, so I'm going to work on that. Okay, so I've got that quite a bit straighter than it was. And then I also took a little of that angle out, so it's not quite as sharp. And I'm going to put that back in the car and see if I like the way that shifts better. So it looks like adjusting that linkage has done wonders. I've got this back in and have tested it. It will run through all of the gears, and it's not impeding anything. It's not getting caught up on anything, so it is looking like it's working just fine. So we're going to move on from here. I have to dive under the car, and the next step will be starting to dismantle the current linkage that hooks the column shifter up. This is the linkage from the column, and it's bolted on in this section over here, and it runs up. You can see we've got a rod that runs up and then connects up by the steering column, so that will have to be disconnected. And then this runs over to this guy over here, and that comes off completely, and that's what I replace with the other linkage that handles the stick shift. So I've got a pretty good idea of how this is going to work, and I've got some decent illustrations in the chassis manual. So I think this is going to be fairly straightforward. Anyway, we're going to get started now. Okay, so this whole mess is out of there. I've taken the old linkage out, and what I've done is put the new shift linkage in that will accommodate the shift rod that goes to the floor shifter right here. So now we have transferred the shift mechanism from the column down to the floor. Now we're not done yet. There's still some things we have to do up top, but the mechanical stuff on the bottom and underneath the car is taken care of. So you see up here what I've done is I drove the pin out of the column shifter and have removed it from there. I'm keeping it in the park mode because I want the neutral safety switch to still work for me so that I can start this car. So here it is in the car. You go through all the gears. That's reverse. This is neutral, drive, and low. Drive, neutral, reverse, and park. I've tested this. I took it out on the road briefly, and everything is shifting the way it's supposed to. So mechanically, we're in good shape. So the next thing we have to do is start thinking about the wiring and how we're going to be handling that, because remember, we've got the neutral safety switch over here along with the backup lights, and they have to be hooked up, as well as I believe a couple of light bulbs that are going to illuminate the PRNDL indicator. So this is the neutral safety switch that's attached to the steering column. And unfortunately, I don't know if you can even see this, it might not be light enough. Unfortunately, I've looked under there to see whether there was a plug-in that would match the wiring harness that I bought, and there's not. It's all hardwired in. So what I'm going to have to do is pull each one of these connectors here, and I'll have to hardwire into them and then route them underneath the carpet over to where the shifter is, and then I can plug things in over there. Okay, so for the wiring here, basically what I did was I ran the harness underneath the carpet and up by the firewall there so that I can get all the connectors in. I didn't use the whole wiring harness. I ended up disassembling it because there was a lot in there that I didn't need. I think the harness was originally set up for the consoles that came with the gauge packages, and since mine doesn't have any of that, there were a couple of connectors that I didn't need. Okay, so I've got those wires connected. We're connected down here to the neutral safety switch. It's the moment of truth. We're going to see if everything works now, and just start by seeing if the key works in park. Yes, it does. Let's try putting it into reverse. Shouldn't work, and it doesn't. Excellent. Okay, so the neutral safety switch is working. Let's check the backup lights. I'll put it in reverse, and out we go. Let's take a look. Oh, I see backup lights. Yeah, so this is working good. I think we're about ready to start putting things back together. I'm going to set those wires up down there in a wire loom, and I'll route them underneath, get them out of the way. And then the next thing we'll do is get the console ready to put in. Okay, this is the last chore that we have to do, and you're going to have to kind of use your imagination here, so bear with me. This goes around the shaft of the shifter. You see it's got that little cut so that you can get it over the shaft. And what it does is basically it sits inside the console, and it prevents debris from getting inside the console because it's rolling back and forth as you shift. What I need for that is a couple of, I guess you would call them helpers or something, that keeps the thing on track and keeps it rolling where it's supposed to. It has a tendency to want to stay straight, and if you don't have something that will let it curve down, it will just bang against the back here and probably just break. So these helpers that I'm calling it need to be attached here and allow it to bend downward. And then in the front you can see that there are a couple of places there where a person could mount another one and it would do essentially the same thing. So that's what I have to deal with in order to get this to work. Here's my problem. If you go on eBay to find these, or anywhere else frankly, you can find used ones that are about $50 a piece, and they're all rusty and look like they're about ready to give way. So what I'm going to do is, I've got some sheet aluminum here. I'm going to try cutting out a pattern and seeing if I can make something that will do the same thing. So this is what I've made to try to imitate that part that is missing. Basically, this attaches to the console in the rear, and then that plastic piece runs through it. So it gives it a channel, essentially, to run through and be able to keep it pushed up to the top so it doesn't let any crumbs and crap like that through. There's another one that goes in the front that looks similar, and I just had a failure on this one because I'm not sure if the problem has to do with the plastic piece or the length of these guys. It's probably this design that's wrong, but it seemed as though the little plastic piece was just too short. So anyway, that's something that I'll probably revisit a little bit later when I've got some time to kill and feel like monkeying with that thing. For right now, it's about as far as I'm going to take this project. So that's what she looks like with the console all in. Everything is hooked up. The one thing I was not able to do was get that little piece of plastic in and working the way I wanted it to. So that pretty much wraps it up for this video. I think it came out pretty good. I love having a floor shifter. I think the console looks pretty nice too. And that's going to do it for this go round. And I hope you got something out of it. And if you did, like and subscribe. We'll have some more videos coming along as we go. I'm planning on swapping out the U-joints on this thing, and then maybe later on in the year we'll be looking at adding posi traction. So, Till then, we'll see you on the next video. Take care.